Good morning.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So before we begin the session, let's offer our prayers to Lord Krishna and Srila Prabhupada. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Namini Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharini Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Krishna Prabhu Nityananda Asadi Hare Radha Vrindavan Prabhupada. Welcome everyone for the Sunday morning Science of Self-Realization session. We have been discussing from this book, The Science of Self-Realization, since almost 1 year. And we have reached almost the end of this book. We are discussing on the last chapter. The last chapter is titled The Perfection of Self-Realization. So we are discussing on the science of self-realization, all these sessions. Now we are going to understand what is the perfection of self-realization. So we have begun this discussion in the last week. We will continue our discussions today and also 2 more sessions going forward. So we'll just try to quickly go through what we understood in the previous session. So all these discussions are only by the special mercy of His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada, who is the founder Acharya of the worldwide Hare Krishna movement, ISKCON. Because of his wonderful teachings, we're able to understand the most difficult subject matters of spiritual science. So we offer our humble obeisances unto Srila Prabhupada. So in the last session about this topic, the perfection of self-realization, we have discussed about the situation of various aspects in the spiritual world. When we say self-realization, it means to realize yourself as spirit soul and also understand that you as spirit soul is eternally connected, very intimately connected with Lord Sri Krishna. And this particular aspect is explained by Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita as Mamevamsho Jiva Loke Jiva Bhuta Sanatana. We are eternally, intimately connected with Lord Krishna. So our situation right now in the material world is that we have forgotten Krishna. So self-realization basically means to awaken to this understanding, to this realization that we are eternally connected to Krishna. So when we know that we are eternally connected to Krishna, we should also know where is Krishna and what are his activities. So this is what Srila Prabhupada begins this particular discussion of the perfection of self-realization, about realizing that I am actually connected to Krishna, very much intimately related to Krishna, by giving the picture of spiritual world. So this is what we discussed in the previous session, that the love for the Vrindavan residents for Krishna was something very exceptional. For them, Krishna is not seen as God. For all the Vrindavan residents, their love is unconditional. Whether Krishna is God or very powerful person, they don't mind, they don't bother. For them, Krishna is somebody who is a most lovable personality. That is the love of Krishna. That is the attitude of Vrindavan residents. And we see this example of Krishna's loving attitude between Krishna and the Vrindavan Vasis, or the devotees of Vrindavan, in his various pastimes. It's like the pastime of the lifting of Govardhana. Girivaradhari is called. He lifted Govardhana. Why? Just to out of affection for his devotees of Vrindavan, when Indra became very angry and was showering torrential rains, Indra was very much puffed up, arrogant about his position. When Indra Yajna was not performed, that's why he was trying to punish the residents of Vrindavan. And Krishna, with his little finger of the left hand, he lifted the Govardhana Parvata, Govardhana hill, for 7 days and held it as an umbrella. So he is known as Girivaradhari. Gopi Jana Vallabha. Gopi Jana Vallabha means he is always the most dear or most endearing personality for the Gopi Jana. Gopi Jana means all the residents of Vrindavan. Anything Krishna does, the residents of Vrindavan, they like it so much and they're always remembering Krishna in that way. Just like the gopis always are remembering, oh, Krishna has gone to graze the cows, how soft his legs are, how much he'll be troubled. That they're always thinking about Krishna every time. Everybody's only, their whole consciousness is only about Krishna. This is Vrindavan life. So the hint given by Prabhupada is that this life in Vrindavan, Golok Vrindavan, spiritual world life, is not that it is some mythology as people in the modern day want to tell about Bhagavad Gita and various scriptures. It is actually a fact, a concrete fact. And all of us can go to Krishna Loka and become Krishna's associate. It's exactly what Krishna explains in the Bhagavad Gita in various places. In the 4th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Tyaktva deham punarjanma naiti mameti so Arjuna. Arjuna, when you know about me, about my various aspects in truth, then after leaving this body, you'll come to me, come to my spiritual world. In fact, the whole Bhagavad Gita is an invitation for all of us to go back to spiritual world, from where actually we belong to. But we have forgotten, because of which we are put into this material world. So all of us are actually have the prerogative to go back to spiritual world because we all belong to spiritual world. That is our home. It's like when you go anywhere outside, even for a, say, some trip or some yatra, after that you come back to your home. Likewise, now that we as living entities, we have been taking different bodies and we are roaming all over the material world. Brahmanda, Brahmana we are doing in different bodies and spending our life terms in different bodies. So Krishna is telling that, why are you roaming like this? Come back to me. This is the whole message of Bhagavad Gita. So we have to prepare to go back to spiritual world. So all of us are very much having the capacity, eligibility to go back to spiritual world, to Krishna Loka, and become his associates and experience the spiritual life in the spiritual world. That is our actually prerogative. But we have forgotten this and we are doing something else. So this is the perfection of self-realization actually. Going back to spiritual world, Krishna Loka, and becoming his associate. And with this, we understood the exalted devotees who were 500 years back in Vrindavan. So first we talked about 5,000 years ago, the Vrajavasis, the devotees of Vrindavan. And recently, 500 years ago, there were great devotees known as 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan. And they also were very elevated devotees. What is their life and how did they, how they were so elevated, we try to understand more in today's session. So in this context, we try to understand the qualifications of a pure devotee. So going back to spiritual world is our right, or rather our prerogative. But to go to spiritual world, what is the qualification? What is that you're supposed to, be equipped with? Because everybody, if they say, I want to go to America, what are the requirements? First of all, you need to have a passport from India. Indian government has to issue a passport. After that, the American government has to issue a visa. These are the requirements. The American government rejects for you to, for you, the entry into their country, you cannot enter there. Likewise, go to Krishna Loka, there are some qualifications required. There are simple qualifications, not very difficult ones. Just that we become qualified to go to Krishna Loka. All of us, as Krishna says, after giving up this body, we'll go back to spiritual world. It's just that we need to qualify. Just like I just now mentioned, understanding Krishna, Krishna's philosophy, Krishna's pastimes in truth. In truth means, in fact, how did Krishna do? What is Bhagavad Gita's instructions? And absorb your mind with those instructions. Krishna explains, after leaving this body, you'll not come back to this material world, you will come back to me. One more hint Krishna gives in Bhagavad Gita. He says, perform 4 activities. You think of me always, manmana bhava. You become a devotee, mad bhakta. You worship me, madhyaji, and you do obeisances to me, namaskar to me, mam namaskuru. And Krishna says, if you do these 4 things every day, systematically, I will promise you that I will take you back to my spiritual. Like this, there are many indications in Bhagavad Gita what to do. You'll understand what Srila Prabhupada would like to instruct us in this regard, with regard to how to become qualified as a pure devotee. So to become qualified as a pure devotee, you should know what are the qualifications of a pure devotee, right? One of the qualifications we understood is that he is a symbol of humility, right? Even though he's a very learned person, he knows all the Vedic scriptures, but he's a humble and simple personality. We'll understand more as we move towards. We'll understand more in today's session. It's like the pure devotee, when he is here amidst us, he has a mission. One thing you have to understand, the pure devotee is not like we ordinary people. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna explains, when there is a discrepancy in the execution of religious principles, yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata. There's a glani. Glani means the religious principles are not being followed properly. There's adharma, so much of adharma. Yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata abhyuthanam adharmasya. Then, to establish the religious principles, either I personally come or I send my representatives. Srila Prabhupada gives an example of how Jesus Christ was the Son of God. Prophet Muhammad was the representative of God. Like that, when Krishna sees that there is a lot of irreligion happening at a particular period of time in his creation, in the material world, he personally comes or he sends his representatives. So these pure devotees are actually representatives of Krishna. Krishna has personally sent them. They are not ordinary people. It's like Krishna's descent or Krishna's avatara has a mission, has a purpose to re-establish religious principles. Similarly, the mission of a pure devotee is to again completely cooperate with Krishna's mission, execute Krishna's mission. Prabhupada, what did he do? Prabhupada, he went all over the world with Krishna's message and preached Krishna's message and told everybody, you become devotee of Krishna, you chant Hare Krishna. Right? By this, you please perfect your lives and go back to spiritual world. This was the message Prabhupada gave. So likewise, we see that when pure devotees appear, they have a mission. So this position of a pure devotee can be obtained by one who has acquired the mercy of Lord Chaitanya. It's a very important statement. Krishna Shakti Vina Nahe Tare Pravartan. It's a statement in the scriptures. Unless one is blessed by Krishna, unless one has sufficient mercy of Krishna, one cannot preach the message of Krishna. So Prabhupada, in his personal life, you see, even though he was, one sense, without any money, he went to America in the year 1965. So we are reading every day in the morning in our temples. Prabhupada, he left India on August 13th, 1965 in a cargo ship to go to America. Why? Because there was an order from his spiritual master when he met his spiritual master, we'll understand this in today's session. When the first time he met in 1922, his spiritual master ordered him, why don't you preach the message of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Lord Krishna to the English-speaking people? That was the message. So Prabhupada kept this very close to his heart, and he was endeavoring for many years. It was only when he was 70 years old. See, 1922 is when he was 25 years old. But 1965 is almost 50 years later. Prabhupada got the opportunity to, again, opportunity to go out and preach this message. Which means Prabhupada wanted to fulfill the mission of his spiritual master. So mission was very clear. I want to preach the message. I want to give this message to everybody in the world and make them devotees. That is what the mission of a pure devotee is. For this, you require mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is Krishna's direct incarnation of this age of Kali Yuga. And he is Krishna himself actually in a golden form. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Krishna himself in a golden form, who incarnated as a devotee of Krishna to preach the glories of Krishna again. That is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's incarnation. Once a person is fortunate to obtain the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, a person can deliver suffering humanity from material contamination. So, if anybody is having this potency to deliver the conditioned souls of this material world, it is only with the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. This point we have to appreciate. And in the same line, we see Chaitanya Mahaprabhu actually, his direct disciples were the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan. They were all such exalted devotees. They had a mission to deliver all the suffering conditioned souls. So to such great devotees, we should offer our respectful obeisances with this mantra. Vande Rupa Sanatana Raghu Yugau Shri Jiva Gopalakau. This is a prayer to Goswamis. All the 6 Goswamis, Rupa Goswami, Sanatana Goswami, Raghunatha Goswami, Raghunatha Dasa Goswami, Raghunatha Bhatta Goswami. 2 Raghunathas are there. Shri Jiva Goswami and Gopala Bhatta Goswami. There are 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan. The 6 Goswamis, their qualifications were that they were so expert in scrutinizingly studying all the scriptures with the aim to establish real religion in the world. In Kali Yuga, what has happened? People are so much confused about what to follow, what not to follow. Even when we go to understand the Vedic literature, it is so vast. So many Vedas, so many Purana, so many Upanishads. What to study, what not to study. So these Goswamis, 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan, what did they do? They scrutinizingly analyzed all the Vedic scriptures and gave the essential aspect, what is to be followed. Nana Shastra Vicharaneka Nipunau Sadharma Samsthapaka. Nana Shastra means various scriptures they went through and analyzed. They picked up the most important aspect, what is to be followed by people of Kali Yuga. We'll understand this with an example. It's like when you go to a medical store, so many medicines are there, kept there. So many tablets, so many tonics. So for a particular disease for which you have got a prescription, that particular medicine you have to take because the doctor has prescribed, the physician has prescribed for you. So the medical store or the medical shop vendor, he will know which medicine is kept where and he'll accordingly pick up and give you. If you simply go and stand to the medical store without any prescription, sir, I have some problem, give me this medicine for this problem, some medicine for the problem, the physician cannot give. Likewise, these Goswamis gave us the most essential aspect for our disease in Kali Yuga. The disease is what? We have forgotten Krishna so much that we are completely absorbed in material activities, materialism so much. But as Prahlad Maharaj says, we are in Maya Sukha. Maya Sukhaya Vimudha. Vimudha, we have become completely fools, not understanding the purpose of life. So for us, a specific medicine, specific treatment is prescribed by the Goswamis in their literatures. Okay, this is their wonderful contribution. Right? This is pure devotees. Pure devotees always want to give the essence in a very simplified manner for the people of Kali Yuga. Just like Prabhupada also. He explained whatever Goswamis told us in a simple English language, in the way we can understand. So this is one of the contributions of the Goswamis, especially Rupa Goswami. Goswamis have left very good, vast literatures for us. But the most important literature, which one of the Goswamis by name Rupa Goswami has given us, is called Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, translated into English by Prabhupada, known as the Nectar of Devotion. So this gives a proper direction for the beginning devotees, how to move forward in spiritual life. See, everything begins with proper direction. Just like when a child is admitted to school, there is a systematic curriculum for the child in the school. So it goes through that curriculum from first standard to second standard. Then that way, as it moves forward to the higher classes, there's a systematic subject matters being developed. Likewise, the purpose of life is perfection of self-realization. That is to understand that I am actually belonging to spiritual world. I am very much intimately connected to Krishna. I have to go back to Krishna Loka. This is the ultimate purpose. To achieve this purpose, we have to develop the qualifications of a pure devotee. So how to become a pure devotee is what we are discussing. Nectar of Devotion. So we recommend that all of you read this book. It's considered to be like a law book for the organization known as ISKCON, Prabhupada has given. And it helps us to systematically cultivate these qualities of a devotee. Because right now, we are not a devotee. Because we are doing so many activities which is not in line with our situation of the Atma. It is contrary to Atma situation. Right? So we have to align ourselves with the situation of our Atma, spirit soul. It is actually, we are constitutionally a devotee of Krishna. In our natural situation. That's what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says. Jivera Swarupa Nitya Krishna Das. What is my Swarupa? Swarupa means the real actual situation is I am servant of Krishna. It's like water's natural state. Water's natural state is what? It is liquid. When it is frozen, it becomes ice. When it is heated too much, it becomes steam. That is situation which is created at a different, temperatures. But in a normal room temperature, water is in liquid state. Likewise, our situation as a spirit soul in natural state is to be a servant of Krishna, a devotee of Krishna. Okay, so how to cultivate to become a devotee again? How to nurture that aspect of devotional service to Krishna is explained in this book known as Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu or Nectar of Devotion. It's a very wonderful book. Very simple instructions are given. I recommend strongly that all of us go through this book. So the Goswamis were so much hardworking that day and night they used to engage themselves in writing books, chanting and dancing. Which means almost 24 hours they were completely absorbed in only trying to do activities which is beneficial for the entire humanity. Most importantly, they have given this contribution of these books for us. Otherwise, we going through so many literatures and trying to understand what is correct, what is wrong, figure out what is the right thing, very impossible, highly impossible. It's only possible by the contribution of the Goswamis. What is the best thing that we are supposed to do? Because our life is all limited. We live for 60, 70 years. In that already we spend so much time in our education, so much time in our marriage, household life. And when we understand, purpose of life is this, it already would have spent around 70% of our life. It's the time to again analyze what is the right thing. So in that context, we see Goswami's contribution is very significant. So, in fact, it is said that Goswamis were practically they were released from the bodily necessities of eating, sleeping, and defending themselves out of the earth. So we should understand that all of us mostly are engaged in these 4 activities. called Ahara, Nidra, Bhaya, Maithun. So, anybody's life you analyze, this is what we are doing. Whole day, whole life, if you see, there's only different permutation, combination of these things. Eating, sleeping, mating, defending. You think about this whenever you are having time. What are we doing? Analyze everything and start writing down under these 4 headings. Actually, these are the 4 things we are doing. So, these 4 things, Goswamis minimized to almost nil. Nidra, Hara, Vihara, Kadi, Vijito. We spend our time in these 4 things practically whole life. Whereas Goswamis, they ate very minimum. Sometimes they are fasting for a few days. Once in a while, they are hungry, means little hungry. Somewhere they go and beg for 1 or 2 chapatis. Sleeping, hardly sleeping. In a day, maybe 1 hour they used to sleep. Vihara, out of question. Means any recreation, out of question. Because for them, everything is, they're so absorbed in devotional service to Krishna, they don't want to do any vihara. That is their life. So there was no question of mating at all. Nor was there any question of fearing or defending. But they were totally absorbed in Krishna. That is a pure devotee's life. So we're trying to analyze what is a pure devotee, who is a pure devotee, how to develop those qualifications. So pure devotees are not bothered about their bodily comforts, which otherwise we are so concerned, right, about our bodily comforts. That is the point. At most, they used to sleep 1.5 hours daily, and they ate practically nothing. Whenever they felt hungry, they would simply go to a householder's home and beg for 1 or 2 pieces of bread or chapati. The mission of such saintly persons is but to make suffering humanity happy by elevating everyone to spiritual consciousness. See, their whole thinking is the sadhus, the saints, or the sages, and the pure devotees, their whole purpose of life is how to benefit the humanity by giving them understanding that they can elevate their consciousness. Right now, common people's consciousness is called material consciousness. Material consciousness means the consciousness absorbed in these 4 activities of eating, sleeping, mating, defending. If you just ask anybody, common man, what are you doing? What is the purpose of life? His whole purpose will be under these 4 headings. This is what animals are also doing. The Vedic scriptures say, Ahara nidra bhaya maithunam cha samanya metat pashubhir narana. These 4 activities, even the pashu, animals are doing, birds are doing, insects are doing. So what is the difference between you and a human being and animal if both of us are doing the same thing? We are like animals only. In the previous sessions we have heard, Prabhupada says, we are like polished animals. 2-legged polished animals. Same thing we're doing in a very polished way. That is not the purpose of life. The purpose of life is to, yes, these necessities are essential, but they are not the primary thing. This can be met, whatever minimum required, and use your time for your primary activity of cultivating spiritual consciousness. Spiritual life is utmost importance in our lives. In this example, like this, we see in the material world, everyone is trying to exploit one another. One nation is trying to exploit another nation. One society is trying to exploit another. One businessman is trying to exploit another. So this is the material world. Material consciousness means, example, one is the consciousness is filled with, I have to eat, I have to sleep, I have to enjoy senses, I have to defend myself. So when it becomes a little more at a higher level, at a bigger level, these 4 activities will be manifesting as one businessman exploiting another businessman because I want to have more money. One nation wanting to exploit another nation because I want to boss over you. I want to have more facilities. I want to dominate on you. These 4 things have become, at a community level, at state level, at national level, international level, in different ways they are being manifested in different various names and forms, like nationalism, communism, so many things. So this is the point which we are trying to explain here, that these 4 activities what we are absorbed in, and people are simply busy in these 4 activities in these various permutations and combinations. This is called struggle for existence, and out of it The people who are struggling have invented a law called might is right. But we can actually see that even the most powerful must struggle, just as in the current world situation. Right? We have been seeing the present situation. So many wars going on all over the world. People are all fighting with each other for various reasons, whatever. And each one wants to dominate on the other. So what are we heading towards? Where are we going towards? What is the direction? Well, our life is not for this simply dominating on one another and trying to, exploit another. And we're losing the goal in our life, the purpose in our life. That is the point. So instead of wasting our time in so many things like this, we have to use our time in cultivating our spiritual consciousness. That is the purpose of life. Finally, you are fighting like this and trying to dominate, trying to exploit, trying to enjoy this material world. All this is only limited to this life. Again, next life, we'll continue with that in some other way, in some other nation, in some other situation. Like this, life after life, you're living a conditioned life. It's called Nitya Baddha Jivana. So we have to become Mukta Jivana, not simply conditioned like this. No other thought other than just simply, absorbed in material activities is a very condemned life. This we have to understand very clearly. There's a great struggle going on between different big nations, as you see now. Each of the big nations want to dominate on other rest of the world, like Russia, America, China. This Prabhupada has written this. This actually is a essay Prabhupada has written many years ago, at least 60, 70 years ago. And what Prabhupada has predicted is all, is what is happening right now. Because of such a struggle, everyone is suffering. The very struggle for existence means suffering. Everybody is, great tension all over. What will happen next? When war will break out? So many difficult situations people are going through. This is the present situation. So the pure devotee is meant to deliver the material world from this suffering situation by teaching the people how to cultivate Krishna consciousness. The pure devotees of Krishna, however, are interested not in exploiting others, but in helping people become happy, and therefore they are worshipped on all planets. Right? Chanakya Pandita says very nicely that a rich man and a learned man cannot be compared. A rich man may be honored in his own country or on his own planet, but a learned man, a devotee of God, is honored wherever he goes. It's a very important statement Chanakya Pandita is making. Right now, people are wanting to become rich man, big man, so many things, right? To dominate others. I want to, we want to have more opulence in our country. But all these things are limited to a particular space, time, and situation. Some list like we see that Forbes list of rich people. Every now and then somebody else becomes rich, and somebody was on top, he'll come down in his situation, in his position. So the rich man who's rich now will not be rich always. This point you have to understand. Whereas a devotee's position is something which he is devoted to Krishna so much that he doesn't want all these material positions. They're all temporary. Richness or getting a position of a very big position of a royal post of king or minister. No. They only want to see that they serve the humanity by giving them the knowledge about how to deliver themselves from the suffering material world. That is why Chanakya Pandita says that devotee is honored all over the three worlds. So in this context, we have a very wonderful example of Haridas Thakur. Haridas Thakur was a great devotee 500 years ago who dedicated his life only for chanting the holy names of Krishna. So in this regard, Prabhupada gives very nice, some understanding of Haridas Thakur in these teachings. He says, for a devotee, there is no distinction between heaven and hell because Krishna is with him in both places. Generally, people want to have a very good situation, comfortable situation. But a devotee is not bothered. Whatever situation it is Krishna sanctioned. And let me go on preaching or spreading the message of Krishna. This is the example of Haridas Thakur. Because actually Haridas Thakur had to go through a lot of tribulations, pains, because he was from a Mohammedan family, Muslim family. Other Muslims were very much opposed for him to take up this process of chanting of Hare Krishna and becoming a Vaishnava. So in fact, one of the Muslims punished him. Zamindar punished him in a way that he was beaten in 21 marketplaces. Like, why are you taking this religion? Why did you change the religion? Why did you convert? Like this, he had to face many tribulations. But Haridas Thakur example is, he was in a great tribulation, great pain, but he never gave up his devotion to Krishna. He always maintained his Krishna consciousness. That is the point. So for a devotee, either hell or heaven, it is always only for keeping his Krishna consciousness intact and preaching Krishna consciousness. Because in life, there will be situations which will be very tough. Many situations will be very challenging. But we should not give up our practice of devotional service. Where there is Krishna, there is no question of hell. Every place is Vaikuntha. When you chant Hare Krishna, that place becomes Vaikuntha. That is the point. Haridas Thakur, for instance, did not enter the Jagannath temple at Puri, for he was born in a Mohammedan family. And the Hindus opposed the Mohammedans entering the temple. Even now it is the custom in many temples in India, especially Jagannath Puri temple, that the people from other religions other than Hindu religion, they're not allowed inside the temple. So Haridas Thakur, in fact, respected this rule and he did not enter the temple because he was born in a Mohammedan family by birth. So Haridas Thakur did not let this disturb him. However, he thought, oh, why should I go and disturb them? I shall chant here. See, this is the devotee's qualification. He doesn't want to break any rules in the normal conventional world, what is going on. People have set up so many rules. He doesn't want to break them and create disturbance to anybody. Haridas Thakur very peacefully sat little away from the temple under a tree and he was chanting every day Hare Krishna mantra. And he used to chant how many times? 3 lakh times Hare Krishna every day. 3 lakh names he used to chant every day. 3 lakh names, practically it is like chanting 200 rounds of Hare Krishna mantra, mala. One mala is having 108 names. Rather 200 malas he used to chant. So, practically 24 hours Haridas Thakur was chanting only. So, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is Lord himself, Jagannath himself, daily came to see Haridas Thakur. Whenever Chaitanya Mahaprabhu used to go to bathe in the sea, he used to come visit Haridas Thakur. So, this is the power of a pure devotee. He doesn't have to go to Jagannath. Jagannath comes to him. The statement, even in the English literature, it is said, don't try to see God, but do something so that God will see you. Right? Generally, if you don't try to see God means we want to see where is God, where is He, I want to see Him, I want to see Him. See, God is everywhere, but because you don't have proper qualification, you're not able to see. God is there in your heart as Paramatma. Can you see? You cannot see now because you're not qualified to see. But your activities should be so so much in line with the instructions given by Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita and in scriptures that Krishna will see you. That's what happened with Haridas Thakur. Haridas Thakur example is so wonderful that he was such a great exalted devotee. Krishna used to come and see him every day. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu used to go to see Haridas Thakur daily when the Lord was going to bathe in the sea. Every day Chaitanya Mahaprabhu used to go and bathe in the sea. On the way, he used to meet Haridas Thakur. The Lord would enter Haridas' cottage and ask, Haridas, what are you doing? And Haridas Thakur would reply, please come in, my Lord. He used to every day meet Haridas Thakur sometime and then move forward. Then, this is then the actual position of a devotee. Therefore, Krishna says that the worship of his devotee is even more valuable than worship of himself. It's a very important principle which Krishna also explains to Arjuna in one Purana known as Adi Purana. Krishna says to Arjuna, Arjuna, those who say they are my devotees directly, they are not my devotees. One who is a devotee of my devotee, he is my devotee. Krishna says. Today is a very auspicious ceremony of festival of Sri Radharani, Srimati Radharani, her appearance day. It's called Radhashtami. Radharani is a pure devotee of Krishna, exalted devotee of Krishna. So, devotion to Krishna, Krishna doesn't accept. But when you go through Radharani, when you become devotee of Radharani, Krishna will accept that devotee because Radharani recommends. Krishna is a devotee for you. When Radharani recommends, Krishna doesn't even mind, doesn't even bother with that person. That is what in Vrindavan you see, people all address each other as Hey Radhe, Radhe, Radhe. Why? Because they're all chanting Radharani's names. Radharani is an exalted devotee of Krishna. Right? So Krishna will take or accept our devotion through his pure devotees. That is the principle. This is one of the qualifications to move forward in our spiritual life. The devotee is actually able to deliver Krishna, for he knows the science of Krishna consciousness, the science of hearing Krishna's words, eating Krishna prasada and enjoying Krishna. This is a devotee's position because he can deliver Krishna. Just like Prabhupada, what did he do? He gave Krishna's holy names, he gave the message of Krishna, Bhagavad Gita. He told us how to eat Krishna prasada, offer Krishna food and take the test prasada. So all these things are such wonderful procedures for us to become devotees, because pure devotees like Prabhupada and Goswamis have taught us all these things so nicely. That is the point. So this is how we can become or qualify ourselves as pure devotees. The impersonalists and voidists may preach dry philosophical treatises on Aham Brahmasmi, I am spirit. But ultimately, who will be attracted? There are some spiritualists known as impersonalists. They think ultimately God is impersonal Brahman. Aham Brahmasmi, I am spirit only. But who will be actually attracted for this? Prabhupada challenges this. What is the difference between someone who thinks I am a stone and someone who thinks I am void? This is what impersonalists and the voidists think. Finally, there is no God. I am just Brahman. So why should we become stone, wood, or void? This is not our philosophy. Vaishnava philosophy, or the philosophy of perfection of self-realization, is that we don't want to become stone, wood, or void. Right? We want to have connection with Krishna again, relation with Krishna. It's already there. We have to revive that relation. Our actual position should be in reciprocating loving affairs with Krishna. This is our actual situation. This is what we're supposed to be actually coming back to our situation. This is our natural situation. This can be revived by practicing devotional service under the guidance of a pure devotee. That is what we have been understanding right now. So in this context, Prabhupada narrates his own personal life in a very brief way. We will try to take understand this in the next few minutes and then close this session. So in fact, Prabhupada's personal life, Prabhupada narrates in this essay. He says, I met my spiritual master for the first time in 1922. The spark of love for Krishna is struck by the spiritual master, the pure devotee. The devotional aspect in us will be awakened. Just like a matchstick is struck against that matchbox. What happens? That spark comes up. Likewise, when we, conditioned souls, get in contact with pure devotee, either by his words, either by his organization, or through his devotees, Prabhupada disciples, somehow Prabhupada's mercy acts, and the spark in us, the devotional aspect in us, is ignited. So this touch of a pure devotee is very important. When you hear from a pure devotee, when you read his books, when you do what pure devotee is doing, Krishna is very pleased. And that will awaken our original devotion to Krishna. This is the point. So, this is what Prabhupada explains. That spark of love, which all of us already has, is going to be awakened when you come in touch with a pure devotee. As for myself, my spiritual master, his divine grace, Om Vishnupada Bhaktivedanta Swami Goswami Prabhupada, ordered me to take up the responsibility of spreading Krishna consciousness in the Western world. Prabhupada is narrating how, when first time he met Prabhupada's spiritual master, he ordered him, you please take the responsibility of spreading Krishna consciousness or the message of Krishna in the Western world. His divine grace had a great desire to preach Lord Chaitanya's message in the West, and my success is both his grace and pleasure. The very first meeting, Prabhupada was given this order. Prabhupada is telling, whatever success people are seeing, it's only by my spiritual master's grace and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mercy. This is the humility of a devotee. He never takes any credit for any success. Ordinarily, people think, oh, I have done this achievement, I have done such great things. People, take pride in that. Whereas a pure devotee never takes pride in any achievements for Krishna, because they think it's only by mercy of Guru and Krishna. Right? Prabhupada always said this. Whatever is there in me is, I'm only mercy of my spiritual master. Whatever is happening is by mercy of my Guru. This is the mood of a pure devotee. So whatever we are discussing about Prabhupada's life is a life of a pure devotee, and so many things we can learn from Prabhupada's life. When I first met my spiritual master, I was a very young man in India, a nationalist, engaged in a very responsible office. In fact, Prabhupada was a youth engaged in the independence movement at that time. He was influenced by the Gandhi's, various aspects. The independence movement was going all over India. He was influenced by that. And it was also because he was a householder, he was working as a manager in a chemical laboratory. But although I did not want to go, one of my friends who is still living in Calcutta forcibly took me to his divine grace. Prabhupada was hesitant. Oh, some sadhu. I've seen many sadhus. I don't want to go. But one of his friends forced him. Chalo, chalo, let us go. Let us meet this one sadhu has come. I was reluctant to see him because in our home, our father used to receive many sannyasis, and I was not very satisfied with their dealings. Prabhupada's personal experience, Prabhupada is telling. I thought that Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj must be a similar man. And if he were, what business would I have in seeing him? This is what Prabhupada was thinking. But my friend took me forcibly. Why not see him? He asked. I finally relented and went with him, and I profited. Like Prabhupada recalls the first meeting. I was hesitant to go, but my friend forced me to go there, and he took me forcibly. After I met my spiritual master, I felt he's a great personality. He's a real sadhu. And I was profited so much. My whole life changed. This is the, this is the effect of meeting a pure devotee. Just touch of a pure devotee, somehow or other, will change your life. Because we are going in a particular course of life, busy in our activities of material world. When a pure devotee touches you by his words or by his actions, somehow you get influenced. Then that course changes and you go towards Krishna's destination. That is what happens. That is what happened most of us in our lives. On my first visit, His Divine Grace said that it was necessary for educated boys like me to go to foreign countries and preach the gospel of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. The very first meeting, this was the instruction Prabhupada's Guru Maharaj gave to Prabhupada. I replied that India was a foreign-dominated nation and that no one would hear our message. Because Prabhupada at that time was a youth, busy with national Indian independence, politics, and he was very thickly involved in that. So Prabhupada gave his response that we are already dependent nation. We are a foreign-dominated nation. Who will hear our message? Was the question Prabhupada asked. Actually, at the time, foreigners considered Indians very insignificant because in the face of so many independent nations, India was still dependent, being dominated by Britain. Because at that time, you see, pre-independence, India was a big nation, no doubt, but India was still under foreign subjugation. But this is what everybody had in their mind. Oh, we are under British, we are ruled by British. This was the understanding earlier. So Prabhupada expressed the same point of view to his spiritual master in the first meeting. At that time, there was one Bengali poet who actually lamented that even uncivilized nations were independent, whereas India was dependent on the British. So all these poets at that time, Bengali poets, they were influencing the whole land of Bengal, writing many poems, but telling that, see, we're all dependent nations, whereas there are so many nations in the world, we're all independent. This sentiment. Whereas Prabhupada's Guru Maharaj convinced him that dependence and independence are only simply temporary conditions. And he pointed out that because we are concerned with the eternal benefit of humanity, we take up this challenge of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Very nicely, Prabhupada's Guru Maharaj explained to him. His dependency, independency are all situational. Now we may say, I'm dependent on British, but after you're free from British, what you will do? You'll be dependent on some other person who becomes president here. This dependency and independency will go on in the material world. It's a never-ending story. But we are supposed to learn to become dependent on Krishna because we are part and parcel of Krishna. That is our actual situation. So Prabhupada was convinced with this understanding that basically Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's message is what we are supposed to carry forward to all over the world. So this meeting with this divine grace, my Guru Maharaja, took place in 1922, half a century ago. Prabhupada is recalling what happened 50 years ago in his life. And further, Prabhupada got the instruction to take sannyas actually. I was officially initiated in 1933, just 3 years before the passing of Guru Maharaj from this material world. At the last moment, just a fortnight before his passing away, he wrote me a letter repeating his instructions. It's a very wonderful reciprocation from Prabhupada's spiritual master. But before Prabhupada's spiritual master left this world, he again repeated the same instructions to his disciple. That you please preach the message of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to the English-speaking people. He specifically said that I should try to preach this gospel among English-speaking people. It's very clear because the Guru, Acharya knows what is that my disciple should do. He gives direction accordingly. After receiving this letter, I sometimes dreamed that Guru Maharaj was calling me. I was leaving home and following him. Basically, Prabhupada was getting a call internally from his Guru that you please give up everything and take up this as your full-time services. I was dreaming in this way and thinking I have to give up my home. My Guru Maharaj wants me to give up my home and take sannyas. Here, one point you have to understand. When you have become very serious in your devotional practices and services, follow what Guru is telling you. Guru will guide you always from within. This is what we can see in Prabhupada's example. Even though his spiritual master was not physically present with him, but Prabhupada said, there was never a time that I never had my association of my spiritual master in my life. This is how Guru Tattva functions. Now, Prabhupada is always guiding us, provided we follow his instructions, what Prabhupada has given us. Like this, Prabhupada, his personal life is giving us an example that a pure devotee is so powerful that he's always guiding us with us when we want to follow his instructions. That is the point. I have a few more slides and I'll close. At the same time, I thought this is horrible. How can I leave my home, my wife, my children? It's called Maya. They're all attracted to many material things, family, society. So Prabhupada also got this thought, oh, how can I leave my family? But Prabhupada understood it is only Maya. Actually, I did not want to give up my home life, but Guru Maharaj made me give it up. This is what the influence of a pure devotee is. He will make us detach from material attachments if you are strictly following his instructions. It's a very wonderful blessing of a pure devotee. He'll make us detach from material attachments. Following his orders, I left my home, including a few children, but now Guru Maharaj has given me many nice children all over the world. Prabhupada was earlier, having few children. He had 5 children actually. But later on, Prabhupada says, I had so many children now, spiritual children, his initiated disciples. Thus, by serving Krishna, no one becomes a loser. And this is an example from my own practical experience. Right? By serving Krishna, you are the biggest gainer. With this, I close today's session. We'll continue our discussions the next session again. Take it forward and try to understand more about what it means to become a pure devotee and how to become pure devotee. The personal life of Prabhupada is very inspiring. Okay, so we'll close now. If anybody has anything to ask or discuss, just one question or one discussion we can have, and we close. You don't have anything, then we will close. I think. So I wish you everybody a very, very happy Radhashtami. Now we have live Radhashtami telecast in the evening. We have festival. All of you are invited to participate in that. Having live darshan also is as good as having actual darshan from Vrindavan directly. Okay, so all of you are requested to participate in the festivities in the evening. Jai Shri Radhe, Jai Srila Prabhupada, Hare Krishna.